disability.
Okay, cool. I'm Jessie, and I grew up in Marin County, especially in San Anselmo, and I'm happy to be here, and I love putting my voice to other people to spread awareness about disability justice. I don't know if that answers your question.
Perfect. Would you tell us a little bit about your identity and your work in the field?
Yes, I've been working at ICS, which stands for Integrated Community Services, for 2 years, but I'm also a client of theirs for over 5 years now, and I am very passionate about this topic because I feel like at the end of the day, even though, yes, I do have a disability, but it's also my mission to spread awareness about disability justice.
Awesome. And I know you have some prepared stories that you want to share.
I do.
Do you want to take it away?
Yes. So basically in high school, all throughout school, but especially in high school, I was having a really hard time academically, but also socially due to having multiple teachers tell me that, high school is going to be the best that it's going to be, and basically I should enjoy high school as it is, because after high school I'm not going to have any support. There's not going to be much out there for me, and as someone who is disabled, that was really scary and worrisome for me, because I generally had that fear at the back in my head of knowing, one day closer to be most likely feel like I'm going to be on the streets and not going to be successful. And that was really hard. Plus with the not very nice students either. But I'm happy to report that that's not the case. As I stated earlier, that I am working at a place that I'm very passionate about. I'm not on the streets. I'm happy. I'm healthy. And I wish I knew that sooner, that there was hope out there and there was services out there. So I feel like as someone that is disabled, but also for other types of people who are disabled, that there's more out there. It's not just end all and be all. There is hope out there, and I hope that people believe that it's going to be okay in the end. So
You said you got those voices from high school staff?
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. What part in particular?
Just your experience with, I think, people were telling you things about the way the world was that maybe were not right.
Well, I guess it's just the fact that a lot of the high school staff was mentioning how, there's no IEP after high school, and, there's going to be jobs out there that are not going to be accepting of people with disabilities, and just that, you gotta enjoy of having this support in high school, because outside of high school there's not gonna be that. And that really made me scared and anxious every day. Even the days I didn't have school, I was scared, because I knew that it was one day closer to being most likely homeless or, and trigger warning, killed for my disability. So that was really worrisome.
And looking back at that time, those adults, how do you make sense of that? Was it lack of understanding of what was available to you? Was it fear? Talk about, what do you think the barriers were for those teachers in your life?
Well, I think, yes, lack of understanding, but also, to be completely transparent, compassionate too, because they knew that I was really afraid of that happening. So the fact that they weren't even going out of their way to be like, hey, let's research this together to figure out a plan for you so you don't feel this way. And that's why I wish sooner I knew about the services that are out there. And that's why I'm hoping doing this video actually is increasing awareness that there is multiple services out there for people. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it really does. And you mentioned this fear of an IEP not following you and your transition.
Yeah.
And I think transition is so challenging for so many people in our community. Talk about what could have helped during your transition and the support that you get now through ICS.
Well, I think a lot of it is honestly just knowing that there is a service out there and that I can get those services, and that's what made it a lot easier. And that you don't need what's the word? You don't need. You may not have the IEP anymore, but that doesn't mean that you don't have any support. And the support that I get from ICS as a staff member, but also as a client, is really incredible because I feel like I can be myself and be successful in my own way. And I hope that for other people too.
Awesome. Can you give us some details about what does that look like for you? When you're in a really supportive place where you're at your best and you can thrive, what is the environment? What are the people? What are the supports?
Yeah, totally. So basically, I feel like a lot of ICS's mission is that it serves people with all different types of disabilities, and knowing that instead of feeling like, oh, I have to, if I don't understand something, or if I need someone to speak louder, or if I can have subtitles during a meeting or something in that effect, is that it's okay to request those things and to feel like, oh yes, of course, like we want to help you. We want you to feel like you can do your best, and accommodating that versus putting me in a little box and being like, oh, you have that, we can't do that. And I've, like I stated, I've had that happen before. So the fact that ICS is very welcoming for me, but also knowing that they want that for all their clients and all their staff, is really important.
That was a beautiful example. I love those details. It really helps to understand. Can you talk a little bit about socially and how you see the San Anselmo community in general as far as acceptance?
Yeah, well, I know I already touched on the high school part, but I feel like just in general of just understanding and support of having people be aware that there is services out there, and maybe even this video going to the high schools to educate the special ed class there, to be like, hey, there is services out there. But even in, I don't know, downtown San Anselmo, to have railings or ramps, or even handheld menus, instead of having like one big menu, because for me, I can't really see that, and having a handheld menu might be easier to visibly see, and being open to that versus being like, oh, we want it to be one certain way. That's my take.
That's a great example. Do you feel comfortable sharing more about your disability?
Oh yeah, no, whatever you would like to know.
Yeah, so just how you identify in the disability community and what the barriers are for you.
Yes, so I have a couple actually. One is that I have hearing loss in both of my ears, hence the hearing aids. But also it's hard for me to pronounce, but keratoconus, and basically that is, I don't know how to explain it without sounding weird, but my cornea is sagging, and so that makes me not have good vision, and I can't get LASIK nor cornea transplants, which I was going to get, but I can't because I have an autoimmune disorder, and so they're afraid that would spread to my eyes. So my vision is increasing very drastically. Like, I just got these glasses back in July, I think, and they don't do anything anymore, so I can't see well at all. And the fact that for the rest of my life, I'm probably going to have to get new glasses every 2 months. And the reason why I can't get the surgeries is because they're afraid I'm going to go completely blind, due to the autoimmune could spread to my eyes. And basically what my autoimmune is, it's called vasculitis, which affects the blood cells in my body. But what happens is that I get as they call it, wheals, but they're actually hives, but they're like this big, and then they hurt and itch, and joint pain that cuts off my circulation of my feet, and then also anxiety and dyslexia. So a handful, I guess. But I don't let that stop me, because like I said, I'm very passionate about this topic, and due to having those disabilities makes me more driven to make a difference.
Thanks for being so honest. I know it's not easy to talk about the
I
complexity
don't mind.
of disability. Clearly, you're very comfortable. And just wondering, because, you know, with what you mentioned, you have both disabilities that are more visible.
Yes.
And then disabilities that are less apparent.
Yes.
And how does that factor into your ability to get accommodation?
So difficult, honestly. Even before I knew about the services, I tried to apply to college and ask for accommodations, and they thought I was making it up. They thought I just typed up an IEP to make it up and to think I'm making up my disabilities, and it gets really frustrating because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not making it up, and it makes me feel very frustrated and very annoyed, because I do have disabilities, and even when I was a kid, I remember every night wishing that I would look disabled and to appear more disabled. And I remember even thinking in my head, it's like, what if I pretend more to empathize it, to be taken seriously, to be able to go into college with accommodations. Obviously, I don't do that. I've gained my confidence of the way I am is the way I am, but I wish that the places like Sans Homo can be more open to be like, hey, it doesn't have to be necessarily always a physical disability to be noticed. And at the end of the day, kindness goes a long way, at least for me. But I think that's the way I believe it. It's like, even just being like, hey, like, I know that this is a video, but just even being able to have the iPad right here to, even though I'm not even using it, but having it, and to being able to be like, hey, does it help that I can look at you? Like, things like that goes a huge long way of being like, wow, I'm being seen for me and not just because of my disability. So.
Wrap that up in a bow. You're such a great speaker.
Oh, thank you.
You really are. And I just find, like, every interaction we've had, just your stories and the way you express yourself, like, I really
thank you.
it.
That's so nice. That made my day. Thank you.
Yeah, spokesperson alert, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, you hit it. So thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me be part of this. It really, I mean, I know this sounds cheesy, but this is literally like a dream come true, and this is what motivates me every day to do things like this. So this is what keeps me going. This is why I do what I do.
Before we end, can I do another quick introduction with a very brief synopsis of what basically, you know, your name, where you live, not your address, but just, you know, that you live in San Anselmo or wherever, and a very short description of your disability. And we'll use it as like an introduction.
Sure, I'm just trying to think of how I can think of like how to sum it up of the part of my disability.
Well, it's not a test, so it's all right.
I'm just thinking, like, do you think to say, like, I'm Jessie, I live in San Anselmo, and I have disabilities, and I'm passionate about advocating for that? Yeah,
I think something you mentioned earlier that could maybe summarize it is that you have disabilities that aren't outwardly apparent.
Okay,
right?
okay, that works.
I think
okay.
is quite unique.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm Jessie. I live in San Anselmo, and I have disabilities that are not completely visible, but should be honored. I don't know if that...
That was perfect.
Okay.